I shouldn't have answered it. The unknown number flashing on my screen was a warning, one that my instincts told me to ignore. But I was already caught. The moment I picked up, I felt the chill. Isabella, the voice said, calm and eerily familiar. It's been a long time, hasn't it? My heart skipped, a sense of dread creeping up my spine. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't recognize the number, but I knew that voice. It was deep, controlled, like a predator assessing its prey. Who is this? I asked, though my voice trembled despite my best efforts to sound composed. The man on the other end chuckled softly. You already know, don't you? His voice was smooth, almost soothing, yet there was an undeniable power in it that I couldn't ignore. I'm surprised it took you this long to remember. We met once. A long time ago. In a place you've probably tried to forget. The words hit me like a wave of memories I had long buried. I couldn't place him. Not at first. But something about the tone, the confidence in his words, made my blood run cold. I stared at my phone, wondering if I should hang up, but I couldn't move. How do you know my name? I demanded, my grip tightening on the phone. His reply was instant, as if he had been waiting for that question. I know everything about you, Isabella. I know what you did last summer. I know what you wore to that gala. And I know the real reason you ran. The last words froze me in place. What was he talking about? I wasn't sure if I should be scared or just angry at the audacity of someone threatening me like this. You're mistaken, I whispered, my voice betraying me. He laughed again, low and knowing. No, Isabella. I'm not. It's too late for that. You've already been tangled up in my world for far too long. You just didn't know it yet. But you will. I'll be seeing you soon. The call ended before I could respond, leaving me standing there, numb, with a cold sweat trickling down my back. I dropped the phone onto the couch and took a deep breath. This wasn't just some prank. This was real. Whoever this was, they knew things about me that no one should know. And the worst part? I had a feeling it wasn't going to stop with just a phone call. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was being dragged into something far deeper than I could ever imagine. Something I couldn't escape from, even if I tried. I was already in too deep. And whoever this man was, he wasn't going to let me go. It wasn't the first time I had been caught off guard, but this time was different. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, and my heart beat louder as I sat on the couch, staring at the screen of my phone. His voice still echoed in my head, each word more unsettling than the last. He knew me. He knew my past, my secrets, and the things I had buried so deep I thought they were forgotten. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't some random encounter. No, this was deliberate. This was planned. And I was the target. I stood up, pacing back and forth, trying to make sense of it all. Who is he? And why now? My mind raced through every possible connection, but none of it made sense. I didn't know any Mafia bosses. I didn't even know anyone who would be involved with people like that. Yet, his words haunted me. You're tangled up in my world. I shivered at the thought. What world? I had worked so hard to build a life for myself, to escape my past. But now, it felt like it was all crashing down around me. My phone buzzed again, interrupting my thoughts. I looked at the screen, half expecting it to be him again. But it wasn't. It was a message from a friend, asking if I wanted to grab coffee later. I replied absent-mindedly, my thoughts still consumed by the conversation I had just had. What did he want from me? Why did he feel the need to contact me after all these years? I hadn't thought about that time in so long. I didn't even want to remember. But his voice had dragged it all back to the surface. The memories, the pain, the people I had tried so hard to forget. I felt my phone vibrate in my hand once more, but this time I ignored it. The weight of the moment was too much. I walked to the window and stared out at the busy street below, but everything felt distant. The lights, the sounds, even the people passing by, they all seemed so far away. I was alone in this, and I knew it. There was no way out. Not anymore. The truth was, I had no choice but to face whatever was coming. Whether I liked it or not, I was involved. And whoever this man was, he wasn't going to let me go. As much as I hated to admit it, I was already tangled in his world, and there was no escaping it. The days following the call felt like a fog, thick and unyielding. I couldn't escape it, no matter how much I tried to focus on anything else. My routine became mechanical. Wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. But always, in the back of my mind, was the question, who is he and why me? I tried to push it away. I tried to convince myself it was a one-time thing, just some prank. But deep down, I knew better. I couldn't shake the feeling that something far more dangerous was lurking just beyond my reach. One evening, as I was walking home from work, I noticed a black car parked a few feet away from my apartment building. It was parked too neatly, too intentionally. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my instincts were telling me to be cautious. As I passed by, I stole a quick glance. The tinted windows gave nothing away, but something about the car sent a chill through me. I quickened my pace, trying to ignore the growing sense of dread in the pit of my stomach. When I reached my door, I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking. I couldn't remember the last time I felt this nervous, this exposed. I finally managed to unlock the door and stepped inside, locking it behind me. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. I dropped my bag on the table, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I walked over to the window and peeked out through the blinds. The black car was still there. I swallowed hard. I didn't know what to do. My mind raced, my thoughts spinning. Was it him? Was he here watching me? I knew I couldn't stay in this apartment any longer, not with the way everything had been spiraling. I needed to leave, but where would I go? And then, as if the universe were mocking me, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I see you're still running, Isabella. You won't get far. I'll be seeing you soon. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I dropped my phone, my legs giving out beneath me. This wasn't just some twisted game anymore. It was real. He was watching me, and there was nowhere to hide. I didn't know who he was, but I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to change forever. The message from the unknown number left me frozen in place, my phone still resting on the floor where it had dropped from my shaking hands. The words seemed to echo in my mind, over and over again. I see you're still running, Isabella. You won't get far. I'll be seeing you soon. My breath caught in my throat, a cold sweat starting to form on the back of my neck. I had no idea what to do next. How could he know where I was? How could he be watching me? I had tried to keep my life as ordinary as possible, but now it felt like everything had turned upside down. My apartment suddenly felt suffocating, the walls closing in on me. I stood up slowly, wiping my palms on my jeans. The logical part of my brain was screaming at me to stay calm, to think, but it was hard to focus with the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I picked up my phone again, staring at the screen, trying to figure out what to do next. The call had been just the beginning, I realized. He knew me more than I ever thought possible, and somehow he was already one step ahead. My mind raced back to everything I had tried to forget. The past I had buried so deeply, never wanting to revisit. But now it was impossible to avoid. I took a deep breath and turned back to the window, peering out through the blinds once more. The black car was still there, parked in the same spot, but it was no longer just a car. It had become a symbol of everything I was trying to escape, everything I feared. I didn't know how. Long I stood there, watching the street, my heart pounding in my chest. What was I supposed to do? Then, without warning, my phone buzzed again, pulling me from my thoughts. This time, the message was different. Don't try to run again. It'll only make things worse. The words were short, final. My hands trembled as I put the phone down and collapsed onto the couch, feeling the weight of everything settle on me. I had no more excuses, no more hiding. Whoever he was, this man had a hold on me that I couldn't escape. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps outside my door. My breath caught in my throat. Someone was here. My instincts told me to run, to hide, but I couldn't move. My body was paralyzed, locked in place by fear. The doorbell rang and I froze. Every muscle in my body screamed for me to stay silent, to stay hidden. But it was too late. I had no choice. I had to face whatever was waiting for me on the other side of that door. The doorbell rang again, this time more urgently. My heart hammered in my chest as I stood there motionless, trying to gather my thoughts. Every instinct screamed at me to hide, to run, but where would I go? The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in on me, and I had nowhere to escape to. I took a step back, my breathing shallow, and tried to think of what to do next. Another ring of the doorbell. I could hear muffled voices outside, but I couldn't make out the words. My hands shook as I walked toward the door, my feet feeling like they were made of lead. I didn't want to open it, but I had no choice. Whoever was outside knew I was here, and I couldn't hide forever. I reached for the door handle, but for a brief moment, I hesitated. What if it was him? What if this was just the beginning of something even worse? But I had to face it. I had to know what he wanted. Slowly, I turned the handle and opened the door. Standing on the other side was a man in a dark suit, his expression unreadable. His presence filled the doorway, blocking the light from the hallway. He didn't speak at first, just stared at me with a gaze so intense it felt like he was looking straight through me. His eyes were dark, cold, calculating. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my best effort to sound confident. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped forward, and I instinctively stepped back, bumping into the wall behind me. He noticed the movement, his lips curling into a faint, almost amused smile. "I think you already know who I am," he said in a voice that sent a chill down my spine. It was low, smooth, but there was something menacing lurking beneath the calm. My heart raced as I looked up at him, trying to keep my composure. "I don't know who you are," I said, though the words felt hollow as soon as I spoke them. His smile widened slightly, and then, finally, he stepped aside, revealing another man standing just behind him. This man was taller, broader, his presence equally intimidating. "You're wrong about that," the man in the suit said, his voice unwavering. "We know you. And we're here to make sure you understand exactly who we are." My stomach twisted. The reality of the situation was settling in. This wasn't some prank or misunderstanding. These men were serious, and they were connected to something I couldn't even begin to understand. I was caught in something much bigger than I had realized. The man in the suit stepped forward again, his eyes never leaving mine. "You've made a mistake by running, Isabella," he said, his tone colder now. "But we can fix that. We just need you to cooperate." I didn't respond. What could I say? I didn't know who these men were, but the way they spoke, the way they moved, it was clear they had power, and they weren't here to play games. I took a step back, my mind racing for a way out, but the door was already closed behind me. There was no escape. I was trapped, and I had no idea what they wanted from me, but I knew one thing for sure. My life was never going to be the same again. The man in the suit didn't move. His eyes locked onto mine as if he were waiting for me to say something, anything. The silence stretched on, thick and uncomfortable, making it harder to breathe. I could feel my pulse quicken, each beat like a drum in my ears. His presence was overwhelming, like the air around him was charged with something dangerous. I took another step back, but he followed, closing the distance between us in a single movement. "You don't have to be difficult," he said, his voice low and measured. "We're here to help you, Isabella." His words made no sense. Help me? How could they possibly help me? They were the ones who had been watching me, who had sent that message, who had now appeared on my doorstep. What was this all about? "Help me," I repeated, my voice shaky but louder this time. "By showing up uninvited? By threatening me?" He tilted his head slightly, the faintest hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "You misunderstand," he said. "We're not here to hurt you, but you have something we need. Something you don't even realize you have." I swallowed hard, my mind spinning. I was trying to keep up, trying to make sense of his cryptic words, but nothing was adding up. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "What do you want from me?" He stepped closer again, his presence almost suffocating. "We know about your past, Isabella," he said, his voice so calm it made me want to scream. "We know who your family is. We know who you really are. And you're going to help us find something that's been missing for a long time." I felt my breath catch in my throat. My family? What did they know about my family? I thought I had buried that part of my life. I thought I had left it behind. But now it was here, right in front of me, in the form of these men. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, my voice shaking more than I wanted to admit. I don't know what you want, but I'm not helping you. The man in the suit didn't react immediately. He simply stood there, watching me, as if waiting for me to change my mind. But I wouldn't. I couldn't. My family? The past? I had spent years running from it. From them. You don't have a choice, he finally said, his voice cold and final. You will help us, Isabella. And you'll do it willingly or not. My heart raced as the weight of his words settled in. He was right. I didn't have a choice. This was bigger than me, bigger than anything I had ever known. The door to my past had just been thrown open, and I had no idea what was waiting on the other side. The man in the suit stepped back slightly, as if giving me space to process his words. But it felt more like a move to see if I would crack under the pressure. I couldn't tell if he was playing some psychological game, or if this was just how they operated. All I knew was that I was standing in front of two men who knew more about my life than I did. The weight of their presence was suffocating, and I felt my chest tighten as if I were about to suffocate. I'm not who you think I am, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I don't have anything you need. You've got the wrong person. The man in the suit raised an eyebrow, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. You still don't understand, do you? He said softly. It's not about who you are now. It's about what you're connected to. What your family is connected to. His words hung in the air like a dark cloud. I wanted to scream, to argue, but something in his tone made me hesitate. I had been running from my past for so long, and now it felt like it was catching up to me. I don't want any part of this, I muttered, my eyes darting around the apartment, searching for any means of escape, but I knew there was nowhere to go. The other man, the one who had been standing silently behind him, stepped forward then. He was silent, his eyes cold as they met mine. You don't get to make that decision anymore, he said quietly, his voice low and unsettling. You're in this, whether you want to be or not. I felt my stomach twist. The reality of the situation was starting to hit me, and it was worse than anything I could have imagined. These men weren't here to negotiate. They weren't here to ask for anything. They were here to control. What is it you think I can help you with? I asked, the question slipping from my lips before I could stop it. The man in the suit smiled then, a cold, calculated smile. That's what we need you to figure out, he said. You'll help us find what we need. And when you do, you'll be free. But until then, you stay with us. You stay where we can keep an eye on you. My mind reeled. Freedom? I had never felt so trapped in my life. I don't know where to start, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I don't know what you're talking about. The man's smile never wavered. You will. We'll make sure of it. He turned to the other man, who stepped aside, gesturing for me to follow. My legs felt like lead as I took a reluctant step forward. I wanted to argue, to scream, to refuse, but deep down I knew I had no choice. I was already in too deep. And now it was too late to turn back. The man in the suit led me through the hallway, his presence looming like a shadow behind me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being herded, each step taking me deeper into whatever trap they had set. I glanced over my shoulder, but the other man remained silent, watching me closely. I had no idea where they were taking me or what they wanted from me, but I knew I couldn't back out now. The apartment felt like a distant memory, as if I had already left it behind when I stepped into this new, unfamiliar world. They opened a door at the end of the hall and motioned for me to enter. The room was simple, furnished with minimalistic decor, but it felt cold. A desk stood against one wall, and a chair was placed directly across from it. The man in the suit gestured for me to sit down, and reluctantly, I did. Make yourself comfortable, he said, though his words were anything but inviting. I didn't respond, instead choosing to focus on the surface in front of me. My mind raced, trying to make sense of everything. How had I gotten here? What was their endgame? The man in the suit took a seat across from me, folding his hands in front of him. I think you're starting to understand the situation, he said, his voice calm, but firm. This isn't something you can walk away from, Isabella. Whether you like it or not, you're involved now. His words hit me like a wave, pushing all my previous thoughts aside. I felt a weight settle in my chest. I was trapped. There was no way out. I didn't ask for any of this, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze never leaving mine. "It doesn't matter whether you asked for it or not," he replied. "What matters is that you're here now. And you're going to help us." I could feel the frustration building inside me, but I held it back. There was no point in fighting. I had no idea what they expected from me, but I knew that resistance would only make things worse. "I don't know how I can help you," I said, my voice shaky. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stood up and walked over to the desk, pulling out a folder and placing it in front of me. The papers inside were neatly arranged, but I didn't dare touch them. He noticed my hesitation and smiled faintly. "You don't need to understand everything right now," he said, sitting back down. "You'll figure it out. Just like you'll figure out that the sooner you cooperate, the sooner all of this will end." I swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. It felt like I was on the edge of something, but I couldn't see where the path led. All I knew was that I had no control. The moment I walked into this room, everything changed. There was no going back. And I was stuck, waiting for whatever came next. The room felt like it was closing in on me, the air heavy with tension as I stared at the folder on the desk. I couldn't bring myself to touch it. His words echoed in my mind. "The sooner you cooperate, the sooner all of this will end." But how could I cooperate when I didn't even know what they wanted from me? I had no answers, no way of knowing what they expected, and the thought of being tangled in their world, whatever that was, made my chest tighten. The man across from me noticed my hesitation, and his eyes softened ever so slightly, though the coldness still lingered. "You're stronger than you think," he said, his voice suddenly gentler. "That's why you're here. We wouldn't have chosen you if you didn't have something that could help us. You're more important to this than you realize." I wanted to laugh at his words, but I couldn't. What did he mean by that? What could I possibly have that they needed? I wasn't anyone special. I wasn't connected to anything dangerous or powerful. Or so I thought. My thoughts were interrupted when the door to the room opened, and another man stepped inside. He was younger, his dark hair neatly combed, his sharp suit standing out against the plain walls of the room. His eyes immediately found mine, and for a brief moment, I saw something flicker in his gaze. "She's here then?" he asked, his voice low but steady. The man in the suit nodded, but said nothing. The younger man walked closer to the desk, glancing at me before focusing on the folder. "I wasn't sure you were going to bring her in," he continued, his eyes moving between the folder and me. "You're sure she's the one?" The man in the suit gave a small nod. "She's the one. She just doesn't know it yet." I stared at them both, confusion and fear mixing inside me. "What do you mean by that?" I finally asked, my voice shaky. "What do you want from me?" The younger man smiled, but it wasn't a comforting smile. It was more like someone trying to reassure a frightened animal before making their move. "We want you to help us find something," he said. "Something that's been lost. And we know you're the only one who can help us get it back." "I don't even know what you're talking about," I said, panic creeping into my voice. "I can't help you. I'm not involved in any of this. You've got the wrong person." The man in the suit leaned forward, his eyes intense. "You're involved whether you want to be or not, Isabella. You've always been connected to this.